Total crash and burn. So you do the countdown, and then I have a file loaded. So you got to time it where it's like going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then on 1 you hit play the show intro, and nothing happened. It's the first time nothing's ever happened. Let me see if let's test this thing out. Let me see if I can actually give you a show intro or not. Let me try this one more time. Yeah, I mean, there you go. There's a live TV or live stream. That's strange. I don't know how many of y'all have used StreamYard, but you can preload some things. So there's a countdown that's always preloaded, and then you can put your own intro or whatever on there. I was just click it and it just happens, and that time I click it and it says browser won't play the intro. But anyhow, welcome. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and this is the Proper Royals live show. My name's Adam, if we haven't met before. And hey, if you're new to the show or you're checking it out on the replay, it's generally a ball python show, but sometimes reptiles, but always about the business, and we'll try and keep it drama-free, headache-free. You could go to all those other places for that. I don't have time or patience for it. So welcome. Glad to have you if you haven't joined me before. Hope everybody's doing well. I got a few announcements. Before we get to the announcements tonight, we got Joe and Sheena from JSA Reptiles up in, I think it's Oak Grove, but certainly in Minnesota, just north of the cities, which is cool. Yeah, Oak Grove, I think so. We'll confirm that in just a minute. But we seem to be on this Minnesota Midwest kick, and I'm all right with that. These are good folks, and I'm really happy to have them. If you haven't seen their animals or some of the videos they've been featured in, you got to check them out. There's a lot going on here, and a lot to dive into tonight. So this episode's really right up my alley. I'm excited. There's a lot to pick apart. So stick around. Joe and Sheena will join us in just a minute from JSA Reptiles. I joked either last week or it must have been the week before that I felt like I needed like a saga to update people on, like you would tune in each week if I had a good saga, and then FWC here in Florida was like, oh, we'll give you a saga. I was vending at the Kissimmee Repticon show this weekend. I was really curious to see if FWC would show up, and if they did, just what was going to go on. Let me state for the record, I don't believe in violence. Let's just make that really easy. But I also think we got to work on or be careful how we present ourselves. Sometimes as humans in general, we can be baited into really bad responses. And right now, they're the ones with the bad response. Like we gotta look sharp here, kind of thing. I think it's a great opportunity for the reptile community, and so it's a little concerned with that. But no FWC presence whatsoever. I don't know if there was any officers there in plain clothes. They may very well have been. But generally, when I get inspected, it's by officers in plain clothes that come by several times and then identify themselves. And you start to kind of be able to pick them out. Anyhow, I did not see any presence there of FWC. And so if you don't know, obviously I'm talking about, it's been, Thursday will be 2 weeks since they killed 34 retics and 1 boa that was pregnant, perfectly legal boa, and the sort of saga of the retics and how they got in the situation they're in is pretty highly questionable to begin with anyhow. So anyhow, keep up. Please support USARK Florida and USARK the national office as well. Those of you that don't know, USARK Florida is its own entity. It's the only state that has their own entity. They are funded by the national USARK mothership, but right now more than ever they can use your direct support. So you can both support USARK Florida and USARK, and I would ask you and encourage you to do so. Florida seems to be kind of the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. And I think this is my personal thought. This isn't USARK Florida or anybody else's quotes. I personally think whether you would vote for DeSantis or not, that's not my point. I think his presidential ambitions make this incident in Florida a great national opportunity to still, even though you're not a constituent of Florida, if you're not, to email, call, blow up the phone lines of DeSantis's office and communicate your concerns. Check out USARC Florida on Instagram for kind of all the details. They actually recommend something that I recommended last week. I'm not taking credit for it by any means. I think we're thinking along the same lines. If you're in Florida, start with your local representatives and then go up. Your local representatives care way more about your individual vote than maybe DeSantis might. So while he could do something about it, if those local elected officials won't support DeSantis and his moves, and then they're worried about their votes because of his behavior, maybe we can get this thing, tilt the scales a little bit. So thanks for hearing me out on that. The show itself was great. I had a really great show in Kissimmee relative for myself. I judge shows not necessarily by what I sold, but by the traffic of what I would call like legitimate potential buyers versus sort of the pet show or the animal, the petting zoo, for lack of a better word. And it was really, really good mix of like legitimate enthusiasts and buyers from what I could tell, rather than just people like, ooh, what is this? And kids are free, so we'll just make an afternoon of it. It was really nice that way. So I did good sales, but I also, just the connections that I made were really good. And it was good to see some old friends. So shout out to Eddie, to Robert. Vera picked up a snake. She is, I don't know how old she is. She's a youngster. She'll be a future enthusiast. She's got 2 ball pythons. I was really happy for her to pick one up. And it was really, really cool to hang out with some vendor friends, specifically Jeremy and Holly at Snakes for the Memories, and Creation Collective. Marks and Cheryl just have become really close friends, really great support in the industry as we're kind of grinding and all trying to make it together. So it was really, really cool that way. What else? I am looking for a Herpstat 2. If anybody's got one that you want to sell me, I'll pay you for it. I don't mind support. I like Spider Robotics. I got no problem supporting them. But if you got one that's sitting around and you want to sell it to me, let me know. It's not an urgent need. It's not like I'm not heating snakes right now because I'm worried about a $20 shipping difference or something like that. It's in anticipation of future hatchlings, and that is for my second hatchling rack. So I've got one empty, the purple one behind my head there with Thomas on the top of it. That one's set and ready to go. But the one over there, further, there it is. That one there, that's the one that needs the heat. So I got time. I'm probably good for 4 or 5 months. But if you got one, looking for a Herpstat 2 if you got one. Next week on the show, we got Balls and Strikes coming up. I don't know them, but they're good friends of good friends. So like friends-in-law, maybe. I know they work very, very closely with Stephen and Courtney. I believe they're out of South Carolina. I got to do my show prep, but I believe they're in South Carolina. Balls and Strikes. And next week, Adam Wickens. How about that? Adam Wickens going to be on the show in 2 weeks out of Niagara, Ontario. And then after that, we got Robbie Jensen from JSA Reptiles. And then good buddy Kai Lee comes back on the show from Lucas Land and Royals. It dawns on me it's May, and I haven't had Kai on yet this year. Like, this is like 5 months of no Kai. We're going to have Kai on the show, and he's going to hang out for a little bit. Shout out to Best Dressed Balls, was here first yesterday. I don't know if that was a mistake on your part or what. And also want to say, I don't know if Chris is here just yet or not. Chris from Epic Style LLC. He was on the show 2 weeks, last week, week before, 2 weeks ago. And he was telling me, and I don't know if it was on the show or if it was in the green room. We got talking about music. And he said that he had a chance to work with a local music industry related kind of thing that he couldn't talk about, but it was a cool reptile tie-in. And here's what I really thought. I thought like, a local band like needed a snake for their music video, or a local bar or whatever wanted a lizard or something. This is really nerdy, but I see Phil in the audience, so he will he'll know what I'm talking about. There, if you're into guitars, we have these things called effects pedals. So if you want to sound like Jimi Hendrix, use a wah-wah pedal, and if you want to be like Metallica, use a distortion pedal. Rah, rah, rah. Anyway, so there's a pedal company called JSA Pedals, and they're fantastic. Like they're legitimately probably like, depending who you ask, top 3, 1, 2, or 3. Not depending who you ask, are they top 3? They are. And Chris got to do. They released a new pedal with they give them all these different names. So they named this pedal the Lizard Queen, and they struck some deal to feature Chris from Epic Style LLC's Lizards in their promotional video for it. And I'm extremely jealous. Like, I don't know if Chris got one of these pedals or if he has an in with JHS. If he, hey, maybe JHS wants to, continue advertising to the reptile industry and community. You know what I'm saying? Really, really happy for Chris. It's very, very cool. I was really impressed to see who he was working with on there. I think that's it for my announcements. We'll find more if I think of them. We will come across it. JSA Reptiles. That's Joe and Sheena. I'd seen some things about them because we're going to get, well, I don't want to spoil it. We'll get to it in just a second. But there's a presence on YouTube that I was pretty impressed with. And then, not their own channel, like featured in other channels, which is pretty cool. And then several guests that I've had knew them. And at the same time, I kind of reached out to them on Instagram from some animals that I saw. And it was this cool world of like our community bringing us together. I don't really believe in like the universe brings us together and all that stuff, but and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should believe in that. Maybe that's how this world works for me. Anyhow, I'm really excited to meet Joe and Sheena. We've just met very, very briefly in the green room, but otherwise I'm looking forward to hanging out and learning a whole lot more about them. So all the way from Minnesota, just north of the cities, please, for the first time ever, welcome to the Proper Royals stage, Joe and Sheena of JSA Reptiles. What's happening?
How we doing?
Hey,
I am good. I'm good. Thank you all so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having us.
So my pleasure. And seriously, I'm really happy to have you all. I think the first question that comes to mind for anybody who's not from Minnesota is, have you escaped winter yet? Was there spring? Are you in like real spring or still like the fake spring?
We're not sure.
I think we're back to winter again.
Back to winter. And then I'm sorry I brought it up. That's probably a sore subject by mid-April, right?
Yeah, we had a near 90-degree day last week, 10 days ago, and then we got 4 or 5 inches of snow in between that and now. So.
Wow. I was actually I say it sometimes on the show, but my wife is from Minnesota. We were just last weekend, we were vacationing with some friends that had flown down from War Road all the way up top there. And they came like 2 days early and we were like, what happened? They're like, well, they said there was a blizzard coming. And if we wanted to go, we better go now or we were going to miss our vacation. So that was only, like I said, that was only 10 days ago. So I don't know if you guys got a second batch from that or what.
Yeah, it was just over this past weekend.
Yeah. So, we'll go out of order on the what I was alluding to on the YouTube video and the YouTube presence, and there's a lot of questions tied to this. But Dave Kaufman did a video at your facility, which I have a whole bunch of questions just about that. But talk us through what it takes on an outdoor separate building for your temperatures. I was really amazed by your setup. Take us through that. Like that's a pretty intricate setup that you have for temperature control.
Yeah, it's basically the biggest thing was the in-floor heat. Because obviously we got the huge temperature swings, 30, 40 below in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So then it's a Morton outbuilding, pole building. They're, I guess as far as I'm concerned, probably the best in the business is building true outbuildings.
Yeah.
And then just for us, we have one side of the building is rodents. The other side is our reptile side. And then a garage for just general storage and cleaning and that kind of stuff with the sink. But then we have the in-floor heat set with 3 different zones. So we can basically adjust whatever we need for the rodents in the middle of winter, and then keep it separate from the reptiles, and then just the general work area. So you can have 3 different temperatures going, in the cold of winter.
Now, when you say the floor is heated, did I see right? Did it's plumbing and like heated water?
Yep.
Is that's what's flowing through it?
Yeah. So it's a PEX. So it's a flexible tubing.
Yeah.
That they can run through the floor, and then they run a separate piece of tubing that they put the thermostat in. Because when the first stuff was invented, I guess, probably 15, 20 years ago, they would do the heated floor, but then they would have it like your household. They would have a general thermostat on the wall. So by the time your floor got to the temperature, you know what I mean? Then by the time it got to your thermostat, it was 5 to 10 degrees warmer, because the thermostat was, 4 to 5 feet on the wall.
Right.
So then it was a big deal once they obviously figured out to put the thermostat in the floor.
Yeah.
So that regulates the temperature much better.
And I know that you said it once, but I missed the detail. So where does the probe, or is there a probe for the thermostat, or how does the thermostat monitor that temperature in there?
Yeah, it's in another separate tubing in the floor.
In the big tube into the little tube? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And then is that, and it's the first one I've seen it, so I'm really intrigued by it all. Is that laid in concrete, or is there sort of a mini subfloor that flows through? How do you access it if there's an issue? Is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's the bad thing. It's you got to really know what you're doing to put it in. Trust the people or the company that you hire to do it.
Right.
So we the building completely finished, and then the inside of the building was graded, so it was just dirt. So then we laid down 2-inch rigid foam. And then you run the PEX. They make these special little clips that'll actually clip the plastic tubing to the foam.
Yeah.
And they pour the concrete directly over that.
Wow. And how thick is the concrete on that?
Usually about 4 to 5 inches.
So it's heating up through 4 to 5 inches of concrete, and it's still able to heat up to those, what did you say? I think you said 68 to 78 in the video, depending on the room.
Oh yeah. So like the reptile side is 78 degrees. So we have basically an HVAC system for air conditioning. So then now you're fighting, right? So then you basically set the air conditioner on, and sometimes in the middle of winter it gets too warm, right? So it's a never-ending battle. Yeah,
man, that's incredible. And then and you might not want to share this, I'm not sure. From a business investment standpoint, if you want to share, what is a facility, not counting the animals, but just say an outdoor building, what does that outdoor building, something like that, go for? If like I said, I don't know if you want to share or not.
So I think we're 6 years, coming up on our 6th year in the building.
Yeah.
6th year. So when that was built, it was roughly right at $100,000.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's kind of what I mean, it's done beautifully, guys. If you haven't seen this video, just on YouTube, right? Just actually, you could just write JSA Reptiles. It comes right up to the top on it. Really fantastic facility. So, okay. So let's go back then. How long have you been breeding? Is it always been ball pythons, or were you breeding other species before then, or what's and how long? Take us through some of that.
We started the ball pythons in 2009. But before that, we had a pretty decent sized collection it was more just for pets. We had Dumerals, Argentine boas, Burmese, bearded dragons, water dragon, and we had all kinds, just, a huge basement full of all kinds of stuff. And then right around 2008, 2009, we decided to get into some ball pythons, bought 4 or 5. And then that just kind of took off once we started breeding those guys. We're kind of hooked.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember the specifics. In my mind, 2008, 2009 was the start of the Great Recession. So and I have no frame of reference for that time frame other than my own experience, but I had no reptile experience back in that time. Was there sort of a boom time going on in reptiles then, or was this just totally like underground Wild West? What was going on? What was the ball python market like at that point?
We were just getting in. So it was, I guess, probably in the grand scheme of the market from the prices before that, it was probably considered to be in a recession, you know, because we bought 4 animals for like less than $2,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nothing crazy, but you know, there was still bananas and still some of the other stuff out there that were in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, but like most of your single gene, nothing, you know, not het for anything, was running pretty affordable. You know, we were just getting into it, so we didn't want to go, you know, a little scared of going too crazy and buying a banana for 30 grand or whatever it was back then.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of money now. That was a hell of a lot of money then.
Yeah, you know.
And then, so what was the experience through that Great Recession? Because I mean, that was what, close to 2012 before we started to see daylight from that time frame.
Yeah, I guess the way we did it, it's kind of a partnership between my brother and sister-in-law, my wife and I. And at the time, we were all running, you know, 4 really good jobs, solid jobs. So then it was just kind of like an extra hobby investment, you know, something for us to play with. And then, so I guess we really didn't feel the effects of that.
Gotcha.
You know, so we were building our collection anyway, just for fun.
Right? Yeah, you weren't relying on it at that point.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, in my opinion, in retrospect, that would be like just an amazing blessing where you're not worried about. I mean, you're worried about how much money you have to spend, but you're not worried about the dollars and cents of what's coming in, what's going out. Yep. You're having a good time with it, huh? Yeah. And then, so when did that change? When did that pivot? When did it become serious in business? And what was that trajectory?
Oh, it wasn't too long after, probably about 3 years, maybe 2012. Like kind of every year we would get together at the end of the year and kind of talk it through on if we wanted to keep expanding. And every year it was worth it, right? Our collection was building. We were starting to do our local shows. You know, we would travel to Tinley just to hang out and, you know, bigger breeders and crazy new stuff on the market. And every year we would just turn around and invest more money back into our own collection and just kept building from there.
Gotcha. And when did, and then, all right, so you're still in the reinvestment phase then. And I don't even know the answer to this, if this is the case today. Was there a time when you said I can do this full time, or I'm leaving my job and this is my job now? Yeah,
about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I went full time.
Okay, cool. Congratulations. I mean, I figured that was the case, but I didn't know. Well, first I didn't know, and I didn't know what the timeline like that would be.
Yeah.
And then give us some stats. So, I mean, that video, I think, was 3 years ago. And I think you said you were working with about 180 breeder females then. What are your stats like today from as far as the volume and collection size, what you're working with?
Sheena can answer that one. We've been actually just putting everything in Justin software into Clutch.
Yeah.
Just got done basically entering all of that in. That was quite the chore.
Yeah, I don't know if I really want to admit that because it really, you know, you realize we have a problem. But total animals, including our early hatchlings this year, are 405.
Okay.
So with breeding females, probably what, 120?
Probably closer to 180 with breeder females.
Okay, so still around that 180 number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm guessing as you've kind of leveled up, to use that expression, you've moved some others out then rather than holding on to those. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't. I think the building's just under 1,700 square feet, but the reptile room itself is it's only 15 by 30.
Yeah.
So it's not very big. You know, once you got racks in it and everything like that, and we're really comfortable with the size it's at. So we really don't have the room to just keep expanding and adding racks. So we've been last couple of years really cycling out, you know, breeder females, breeder males. And it's getting harder and harder, right, with the holdbacks that we're producing to let some of that other stuff go.
That's interesting. So let's go back to that. You said the reptile room is 30 by 15?
Yep.
And so I mean, maybe I'm a little bit foggy about it. That's 450 square feet?
Yeah.
That's incredible that you can run that scope of an operation and quality and the number of females and all of that out of that space. I mean, I'm in a 2-car garage. It's 20 by 20. It's 400 square feet. Now that has storage, my desk space, my sink, all of that. I think you have primarily, I wouldn't say just, but nearly only reptiles in that room though.
Right. So we have two big walk-in, the old Pepsi Coke cooler, slider door.
Yeah.
Incubators, all the hatchling racks. And then, we got one of the big toolbox, like mechanic toolbox with the drawers.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. They're like the shop drawers. Yeah.
Yep. So that's got a lot of the little stuff set up in it. And on top of that, it's just a workbench with a tent for taking pictures, and then we got some rolling carts with like stainless steel tops everything's pretty much movable.
Yeah, I don't know how much you watch the show, but restaurants are my professional background, and that point you made about everything on wheels to be able to move around, like I can almost immediately tell how clean a kitchen is by if its appliances are on casters or not. Because if they're not, it ain't nearly as clean as it could be. Like I'm a nut for it. Yeah, like everything's got to be on casters or on a rolling, dolly or gurney or whatever you would call it. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here. So and then I don't know very much about breeding rats. I've sworn off breeding rats. Maybe my opinion will change one day. But first off, I'm highly allergic to them. I don't have the space for them, and I'm fortunate enough to have earned some sponsorship from Cold-Blooded Cafe. So I have made it work in my world for me. But tell us about your rat operation. What's the scope of that?
Pretty big for what we would need. Kind of as we started, we learned really quickly that if we wanted to have a collection of any kind of size, that we're going to need to raise our own rodents. So luckily, as that started to build, we gained some really good customers locally here that really helped us out. Obviously we fit a need for rodents in the area, and that took off. And then our main goal was to be able to produce enough rodents to feed our collection and plus sell to make the snakes basically self-sufficient, right? So we're selling enough rodents weekly, monthly, that covers all the bedding, all the food, pretty much covers all the overhead. So then the snakes are, if we are to sell a snake, when we do sell a snake, it's profit. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know that was part of your business model with the rats as well. And that, I love figuring out businesses and figuring out angles. And so, like I say, finding a sponsorship is what worked for me to offset costs, but those costs and the overhead of the snakes. So the rodents cover your overhead right now then.
Yes. Yep. And our biggest thing when we first started, right, you go to the shows and you can see the customer base come in. Some people like geckos, some people like boas, some want retics or berms, so there's a smaller percentage, right, of that kind of narrows it down, that people come into the room that are going to buy ball pythons or geckos or spiders.
Right.
But for the most part, as feeders, now we become a business that it's open to everybody, right? Now you got good customers coming from every different angle.
Yeah, you'll wonder where this is going, and I've told this story before, but I did a winemaking internship in Napa Valley in 2011, and I was working with the winemaker one day, and he's a really long time established industry standard guy. And I said, John, what do you have any regrets? Would you do different? Or looking back, he's kind of in the twilight of his career, and I was starting. I was early in mine, and he was kind of cynical, but he goes, I wouldn't be a wine. I'd keep the winemaking in my garage. He goes, I'd sell barrels, I'd sell supplies, I'd sell the vineyard tools, I'd sell tractor repair. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, that's universal. Every vineyard needs that. He goes, instead of me being competitors with all those guys, every one of those guys would be my customers.
Yes.
And that always kind of stuck with me. And I see rats that same way, especially as you're describing it right now.
Yeah, because there's times of the year, right, even for us, because we're still in a seasonal breeder, I guess, for the ball python side, right, where we only have clutches, at certain times of the year, or we're getting low on inventory.
Right.
So then coming into this time of the year, now the stuff that we do have for sale is getting down there, but the rodent sales seem to really kind of spike up this time of year, right? All corns and kings and hognose are all coming out of Burmation.
Yeah.
You know, those are starting to lay eggs, so then now they're back on to pounding food. So the rodent sales really seem to start to climb this time of year.
And so I don't want to turn this into a rodent show, but I'm intrigued. Do you deliver? Do people come pick them up themselves? How do you? What's the distribution model?
For the most part, we have a real small group of customers that we try to meet up with, or they'll pick up. Otherwise, we deal locally with a couple of the pet shops, and then we deliver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by the rodent angle. I can't do anything more in this space, but this space is also it's on a time limit. There'll be something. I don't know if it'll be 1 year or 3 years, but as a family with a soon to be teenager that's going to need some of his own space and another vehicle and our own entrepreneurial dreams, there'll be a different space that we're in before too long anyhow. So I might have to think about that. Like I say, I like that model. I have to figure out how to deal with my allergy, and might have to find a partner getting through to deal with rodents and rats. But anyhow, it's intriguing to me, and thanks for sharing that.
Oh, of course.
What everybody's always interested in each other's opinions. What do you all see of the current market? What do you see going on? What's the path out of it? Talk a little bit about what you're experiencing.
We haven't experienced, I guess, too much of, for the lack of a better word, the recession that everybody says we're in, and I understand that the market has changed, right? There was COVID and a lot of free money circulating around, and a lot of people invested into reptiles of some sort. But I guess, is the market really that much different than pre-COVID? It doesn't to me seem much different.
Yeah, you have the benefit of the pre-COVID hindsight, which I, like myself, doesn't have. So for a lot of us, we see it. And I know why, because we got in when it was here, and now we see it here kind of deal. Yeah. So you have the hindsight of the pre-COVID, and you sound pretty. I mean, you sound pretty confident and comfortable with where things are at, though.
Yes. Yeah, and I think basically it's, especially in the ball pythons in general, right? Because there's so many of us, there's so many people doing it. You just have to adjust,
Right.
And you're never stuck, right? We can always, we've been, the last 2-3 years, we've been, buying proven adult females from, Ozzy, Justin. We just bought some from Kobe Nelson, just because it takes too long to raise them to get them that, and we, save some money, get some extra money on the side. And then when you can find stuff like that, you just move out your lower end females and just keep adjusting with the market.
Yeah. I appreciate that point, because I debate often on this show should you buy forward, or should there's almost this like cult of the stigma of if you're not raising everything yourself, somehow you're cheating or doing something wrong. And first off, let me say there's no right or wrong answer for anybody's opinion, but from a business standpoint, money is time is our greatest asset.
Yep.
Money is actually second, because we can make more money. We can't make more time. So
right.
if we can buy the time, essentially, matter of fact, I was talking to Dale about this today. I was like, man, I think I have to change my plans and buy a male. This male I've been holding back. Now that I'm thinking this through, I waited all this time. I don't want to breed that male to her. I want a bet. Yep. I want a head. I want a visual to her, man. Am I going to sit here and play the odds and then hold something back for another 2 years? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm glad you said that. And then, so but you said you were moving out female. So what would be an example of something you would buy up and then move out a female on?
I guess we don't have like a cutoff or like a specific, this is what we're going to do, or this is how we're going to do it. If if I'm looking through list, or people put up available stuff, or going through Morph Market, and we see something that's a better fit, usually the best way is obviously, right, try to get a clutch out of those females, and then get them back up on food and then move them out that way.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's just stuff that you just can't pass up on, right? That you gotta pull the trigger, because the biggest problem that we've learned, right, is you do everything right. You get the male up to size, female goes that year, you hit 8 eggs, you hit whatever, and you still miss what you were going for. Now that sets you back a year, 2, 3 years, you can never recover from, especially like you said, right? Not having a visual male of whatever, if it's a double recessive or whatever, something like that. Now you're never going to catch up or regain those 2-3 years that you missed, right? By not hitting that male, because you only have 1 or 2 clutches that you can hit, right? Unless you have enough holdback females that you're able to hit 4 or 5 clutches.
Yeah. The specifics of the conversation were that I have a triple het to a triple het. And I was like, you know what? I think I just need to buy a double visual and start with breeding him, because then that'll at least, I can't hit a triple on it, but that'll eliminate any possibility of the normals or the 66% hets. At least I'll know they'll all be double het, and then anything I hit will advance the project faster than a triple to a triple. I think that's the math I'm going through right now that I'm working on. So it's, but I'm with you. You can't die on some hill of I'm doing it all myself, and then suddenly it's 2-3 years later and you're still fiddling with holdbacks. And testing will help some with that, but I won't need tests if I know they're 100% het pied if I miss, right?
Yeah. That's where you get it to start to snowball in your direction, right? Instead of chasing it down the hill, basically you're building with it, because then now all your holdbacks are 100% hets. And obviously testing, like you said, will help, because now you don't have to raise them up and hope to God you prove them out. Where now we can test the babies and then basically sell them or hold them back right away.
Right. But it also still doesn't change what they are. So if I know they're all 100%, well, I can test all day. It ain't going to improve what they are. It'll tell me what they are, but it can't improve it.
Yeah. And then you get to the point where you hold back the females, even if your female isn't the greatest, right? It's not some huge, multi-codon, multi-het, whatever, you can buy a better male that's going to bring the value up on that female.
Yeah, that's a really timely conversation. Like I say, I literally was talking to several people, but very specifically Dale, about that this afternoon as well. So speaking of, what are you've got quite a few at least double projects going on. What are some of your favorite double projects you're working on, and any triples anytime soon?
Oh yeah, this is going to be, I guess, probably kind of our first big year where it could be either really great or really bad.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So now it's, we got multiple chances, right? If the females go this year, I think the one I think I'm really excited for would be for triple hets would be True Ghost clowns, so axanthic hypo clowns. I would possibly have Desert Ghost Clown G-stripe that could go this year. I'm sure what I think. True Ghost Pieds.
Wow. Okay.
Well, we got a few triple hets, and then axanthic clown stuff, axanthic pied stuff, some Desert Ghost clown stuff maybe. But yeah, we got quite a few chances, right? But we're just getting rolling with the different, because most of that stuff is a little bit younger, right? So I'm hoping that it'll kind of start to kick in now for later in the season.
Gotcha. Yeah, Dale's asking about your genetic stripe clowns, and I can't remember which one I saw today. I saw one that I won't say the price, but it was striking price. We'll talk about the G-stripe clowns you have going on.
Yeah, so we have one on Morph Market. That's a leopard G-stripe clown that's het Desert Ghost, a female.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really nice, and I really like what the leopard's done. It seems to really actually help the pattern, where in a regular like leopard clown, right, starts to reduce it, but I think in the G-stripe project it's actually going to help it. It's going to be strong enough genetically to bust up the sides as we start to get more stuff into it.
Yeah. So you think those that sort of dripping triangle will get busted up even more?
Yep. Yeah, we have a pastel. I believe she's yellow belly too, G-stripe clown female. So we're just raising them up. You know, they're probably in the 400 gram range right now. So in another couple of years, they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, just so I feel like I can hang out with the cool kids. I just oh, I didn't announce that in my announcements. What a dummy I am. I just had my my clutch drop of talk about head-to-head and long shots, but a blackhead het genetic stripe to a blackhead het genetic stripe. So hoping I can super long odds, but hopefully I see a super blackhead genetic stripe in you know, June 9th. June 9th would be the day, ideally.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I need I watched your video. I need you to put me in touch with Dave, and I need him in my garage when I cut that clutch.
Yeah, you couldn't. I wish that I could do that every time, right? I don't know how we got that lucky. The day he shot that video, I think I got home from work that day and I came in and checked the incubator, and that was a head-to-head pairing. So
yeah, I remember. Yeah, tell the story. I remember it. I'm not going to take that from you, but tell the story.
Yeah, just crazy, right? Just walk in, you know, not expecting great odds, just hoping to hit the animal, and I walk in and pull the clutch out of the incubator, and the first head that's sticking out of the egg is what we were hitting, right? So I think that was the mahogany leopard clown. I believe that was that one. Yeah, and then I think we were 6 out of 7 or something like that with all clowns out of a head-to-head pairing.
Yeah, it was something crazy. I mean, it was you were well above 50. You were well above 66% on something that should have been 25. It's just.
And we've been paying for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. The odds even out real quick. So you take the win when you can get it.
Well, yeah, you were saying it could be a great year or a bad year. I was gonna make a joke that you used up all your mojo on that video with Dave, but I hope that's not the case though.
No, I think
we've missed a few along the way to make up for that.
Yep, but I think last year hitting a special Pompeii, I don't think I can say a word about odds, you know. So that's a stunner. It's and I've only seen it I think on Instagram, so I don't know it in depth. But is that a male or female that you're holding back on? Male.
It's a male. Oh, so that one's about to get in the game. You said it's tipping 500 grams right now?
Yeah, he's real close. He's again couldn't ask for a better scenario, right? He came out of the egg, you know, basically shed and started eating. So he hasn't missed a meal. So he's been doing great.
Fantastic. What's the plan on that one? Where do you take that one next?
So the hard part is a lot of our collection is a lot of those same genes, you know. So you really don't want to go, you know, black pastel to black pastel or spot nose to spot nose.
Yeah.
You know, you got yellow belly in the mix, so right. So now you're producing ivories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to have to be a little strategic. Obviously, we're going to go straight to other recessives. We got some axanthic stuff. Obviously, that I think would be really nice to get in axanthic clowns. Obviously, Desert Ghost is going to be crazy. I know Justin's missed on by maybe 1 or 2 codoms. He's got some Desert Ghost clown stuff that's, you know, 3 out of the 4 or 4 out of the 5.
Yeah.
Seen so far that they're just crazy already. So.
Yeah, so I mean, so you could take that one right straight to a plug and play on female double visuals and have triples with all those genes stacked on them, huh?
Right. Yep. Yeah, we have some. I think even like just to take it to another, you know, because they're special and obviously in the male, just to take it back to another special clown. I think the super special version would be pretty interesting. It's going to be, you know, because I guess like the super specials on kind of the crystal complex.
Yeah.
You know, pattern and that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be worth a shot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes we don't want to get carried away and overlook like an obvious answer. That didn't occur to me when you were talking about the black pastel, the spot nose, and the yellow belly. Those are pretty tough ones to breed back to. But if you have a singled out special clown, huh?
Yeah, yep, and that's like we were talking earlier, right? So you have some of those single gene clowns, or you know, just single gene or double gene het clown girls, or other recessive stuff that are very simple, and now you got, you know, the crazy male to take it to them, and you know, now you're just basically kind of reverse engineer or whatever to get your value back into that clutch.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, like, A, it's a super cool animal, but B, there's some cool combo clowns that'll pay bills pretty nicely for quite a while too, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's where I guess that's where we've kind of hit our niche is going to our local shows and then going to Tinley and Arlington and that kind of stuff, and just having a wide variety, right? You go drool over some of the big boys, right? You go to Justin and Ozzy and, Bob and all them guys and just see some of the crazy stuff they're producing. And some of that is, $5,000 plus, $10,000 animals.
Right.
There's a lot that go to those shows that can't afford it, right? So then, a lot of times if you got the wide variety of project building animals, they can come to your table and buy a couple, and then it might just they prefer to raise them up themselves, and then it takes them a couple of years, but they're still in the game.
Yeah. Well, and everybody's got, I always have to remind myself, everybody's resources are different. And I also can't forget, like, just how excited I was the first time I just had a banana female breeder. Like, I thought I was king of the world. I was like, I'm in, I've arrived, I didn't think about any of the other stuff, and that excitement, that contagious feeling is, I think, is not to be taken for granted, especially when our misses are going to produce those animals anyhow.
Yeah. And that's actually, I guess, a good point as far as just, being excited about a banana, female or, that kind of stuff. We all get caught up in, Instagram and social media and seeing what everybody produces, right? So then you go, oh man, like Troy and I joke all the time about my collection sucks. You see crazy stuff, and so it's really hard, right? You gotta be able to manage your collection and be excited when you hit the milestones for yourself.
Yeah, I talk about kind of the comparison trap, and it happens in life too, right? Oh, the neighbor's got this, or my buddy who plays guitar just bought this, and like we don't just look around. Sometimes I won't speak for anybody else. I forget to just look around and go, man, do you remember where you came from, Adam? Or do you remember how hard you worked to get here? Or do you remember when, like, that guitar that you just hang on the wall right now, like nothing was the holy grail that you had worked 10 years to be able to afford to get, I remember buying my first Gibson. Like it was like, I felt like I had made it. I'd had a career for 5 years, but I couldn't afford a Gibson, and I think it's easy to forget that. And the other thing about Instagram, kind of a funny story, when I early on when I started my YouTube channel, like once a month I would do an episode called "The Coolest Ball Python in the World." It's a great clickbait and like excited video that I would do. And I would stumble across these ball pythons on like Morph Market, or I'd see one at a show. I did an episode with George MD actually after meeting him in Daytona. And I wasn't on Instagram. I was the old dude that hadn't gone on Instagram yet. And then I started an Instagram account, and I was like, these episodes are stupid for me to do. People are just going to look on Instagram every day if you want to find the coolest ball python. And like, I couldn't get excited to do that episode to live up to the title anymore after it. I mean, Instagram kind of ruined that for me. I was like, Instagram's been very beneficial, and it's an important part of my business now, but it's always a kind of funny thing that Instagram people are like, that was cool when you did that episode. Where'd that go? And I was like, yeah, Instagram killed that, man. It's done. Well, we got a stopping point. Let me take a moment and talk about the sponsors and pay some bills. I'm going to reverse them this time because I've been working closely with some friends. I don't know if Jeremy and Holly are still in the audience or not, but they are Snakes for the Memories. I got to vend with them. I actually picked up a snake from them this week, a breeder male, fire clown male, and I'm excited to put him to work. I love fire in my clowns, so that's kind of one of those that I'll have to figure out how to really accentuate. But I'm glad to have that. But check out Jeremy and Holly. They're the links to all the sponsors are down below. But that's Jeremy and Holly from Snakes for the Memories. They have outstanding merch, and they have clutches that are expected to start hatching any day now. I happen to know that they do have some inventory still in stock, and I don't know if this is a show-only thing or not, so I can't name any numbers. But if you talk to Jeremy and Holly and you wanted to buy a 2022 or two 2022s, they'll probably help you out. I'll put it there. I don't know officially what I'm allowed to say as their advertiser, but they're good friends. They've been fun to vend with and to get to know on the road, and just good down to earth people. And I've vended right next to them. So when you spend 16 hours on your feet next to somebody over 2 days, you get to know them pretty well. So go check them out for me and show them some support. Their links are down below. Also, Chris from BNS Reptilia over in Pennsylvania. Hopefully you all are well aware of Chris. He deals in ball pythons, but also colubrids, Morelia, blood pythons, boas, localities. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm just saying words that I know that I'm supposed to say. He's got all of these species, and he's a heck of a good guy. He is also the chipper cocoa distributor. I use the chipper. I found out at this weekend show the cocoa wars are in full effect. Man, I got like accosted. They're like, "Oh, you have a show. We got to talk to you about cocoa." And I'm like, "I got cocoa. I got what I need." So the chipper's been good to me, but Chris has been very, very good to me. Go check out Chris at BNS Reptilia, and he has lots of inventory. He always has inventory, variety of species. Go check him out. And he's good for our community too. Jana was in the comment section earlier. I know that he sponsors the whole Back Rack podcast. He's good. He's good to us folks. Take care of Chris out there. Cold Blooded Cafe. I feed frozen thawed, and I won't choose anybody else. I was their customer before I ever came on as a sponsor with them. I'm proud of their product. I'm proud of how they prep their animals, and I can't name any competition of theirs, but I can tell you Cold Blooded Cafe breeds, raises, and feeds all of their own rodents from birth. A lot of the competition is buying scientific lab rats. You don't know what you're getting from before they go to the competition. So check out Cold Blooded Cafe. Use the promo code PROPER10. Get yourself 10%, not $10, 10% off your frozen thawed rat order. It might say first-time customers only. It's a one-time use. So even if you're already an existing customer, you can capitalize on that. Get yourself 10% off on a frozen rodent order. And last but not least, our good friends at REDLINE Shipping. They've been mighty good to me. I didn't bring it out last week. I got one of, and I don't have it now this week. I guess one more week it'll be. I got one of the great purple Brian's Army sweatshirts, the REDLINE sweatshirts. It's fantastic. All the proceeds from those sweatshirts go to Brian's family. Great way to show your support and both show it and contribute. And REDLINE, they're real great folks on that. I think your experience would be great if you check them out. Use the promo code PROPER5 if on your next shipping label from REDLINE Shipping, you're going to get $5 extra off of your order. There we go. Thank you to the sponsors. All of their information is down below. Let's talk about relationships. You got Dave Kaufman strolling around your. How did that come about? Him strolling around your facility?
Yeah. So obviously he's local.
Well, I didn't know that. Okay, I was going to ask where he's based out of.
Yeah, so he's only 40 minutes away from us.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. So he'll pick up rodents usually weekly if he's not traveling the world. Yeah. So I see him quite often. Been lucky enough to go fishing with him a few times.
Cool.
On his channel. Yeah. So we've been just started out at the shows, right? He was obviously around before us, so then we started just building relationships, doing the local shows, getting to meet everybody, and then just kind of became friends from there.
That's cool. He's I got nothing negative to say about Dave. He's always been real cool to me. I met him at Daytona a couple times, and he's always very giving with his time and welcoming. Especially he was real cool to my son. Was like, "That's that guy." I'm like, "I know that guy." And I will remember that, like, you know, when you like have like a connection with somebody for just a moment, even just a split moment. My son and I, we were standing off to the side. He was taking some pictures with some other people, and he'd seen us waiting, and the other people, you know, said goodbye, walked off. And my son and I took like the first step, and this woman like charged in between and like dive bombed him for a selfie. And like, I swear in her selfie, it had to have been Dave like looking at me like, I don't know, like. And then we started laughing. He's like, "Well, come on over, man." I'm like, "All right, cool." He's like, "Thanks for your patience." I'm like, "Dude, don't worry about it, man. We're just having fun." So he's been cool to us, man. I talked to him last year for a little bit. Like I say, he's been a good guy. So that's I didn't realize that he was based in Minnesota, though. I wasn't sure. Yep. I wasn't sure where he was based out of. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, that's the Scandinavian spelling of Knave. And then, you know, my wife, when she talks to her family back home, her accent comes out. She didn't have one normally, but she gets on the phone. She sounds like she's right back in Minnesota. You know, when in that video, I was like, I think he's got more of an accent in this video than he does when he's in Daytona, Florida. I could be wrong, but I picked up on it anyhow. And then what about some of the other folks? I know you vend Tinley next to Justin, and you've done Cusco's show before. Talk about how some of those relationships evolve.
Just from being lucky enough to do the shows. I think Sheena and I and a couple friends, we were actually at the very first original Tinley back in
2001.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah,
just as
wow.
Yeah, I saw the ad in the back of a reptile magazine. I'm like, we got to go. We got to see this place, right? This is going to be nuts. An actual reptile show, right? You know, just ran around that place and just, I guess that I was always into reptiles of some sort. And that just really lit the fire, right? That it's a true possibility to do it at that level someday. So just as we started getting more and more into it, vending the local shows, and then obviously continuing to go to Tinley, just to have a great time and meet everybody. And I guess I can't remember what exact year it was that we started. We finally made the decision we're coming to Tinley every year, so we might as well vend, right?
Yeah.
We probably weren't probably like Tinley quality, I guess, or whatever you would call that. You know, a lot of people, I think, even including ourselves when we first started, had kind of a stigma that, you know, if you're going to vend Tinley, you got to have the best of the best, you know, crazy stuff, right? But it's still just a great reptile show, right? Of all ages, all levels, all, you know, people just starting out to people that have been into it for 40, 50 years.
Right.
I think our first Tinley was March 14.
March 2014.
I think so.
The first time we vended.
Yeah.
So we vended on a perimeter wall, right? Because that was the cheaper spot.
Mm-hmm.
Tinley just kept growing, right? Just as we got in, just became insanity. Just the amount of people in the building, and you just, once that place is open and fully running, you can't move. So then we decided pretty early on that we were going to try to get like an end cap.
Oh, cool.
Be more, you know, more easier access, right? And then in a better spot and more room for us to hide behind the table, right? Because there's just thousands of people in that room. And then we had our spot signed up for it every year. And then the one year we check in and they moved us. So I was actually pretty frustrated about it. And then, well, let's go just check this spot out. And it happened to be our current spot now for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Right next to Justin. Didn't know him, you know, just I think we might.
Oh, man, I think we lost Joe and Sheena for a second here. Let's see if they come back on.
There we go. Now I got you back.
Okay, there you are. Yeah.
For a minute.
We lost you right in where you said I was pretty frustrated, and then we saw we were right next to.
Yeah, right next to Justin. And that's, Troy will love this, but I guess that's where we just truly developed a genuine friendship, right?
Yeah.
Just been next to him over the years, and yeah, he's just him and Chase and that whole crew are just great people to vend with, and you know, the best part about it is he's going to create a traffic jam.
That's basically. Right. Oh yeah, you're going to get the flow of that spot.
Yeah, we've had multiple people come when Justin's unveiling his stuff because they can't get to his table, so they're stuck in front of our table, and then they actually have to take the time to look at the animals you have, read what's in there, what genetics, and they're like, oh, I need that, you know, so it ends up creating sales. But yeah, just same thing, right? Going to the shows and getting to meet people, going out to dinner, just that kind of thing, right? With Justin, Troy going off in the comments.
Oh yeah, I'm not putting on the screen. You can, but I still trying to make friends with the guy. Like,
yeah, there's so many great people in this industry. You know what I mean? It just Cusco. I mean, yeah, you couldn't meet a more genuine guy. Just loves everybody, and he's just so great for the whole industry in general, right?
His positivity.
Yeah, always positive. Yeah.
I haven't interacted with Cusco. A lot of the guys I've at least met or said hello to, and that kind. I've never met Cusco though.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he seems. I mean, how he comes across seems A+, and he clearly is a great ambassador for our industry. So I absolutely would love to work with him sometime. That'd be fantastic. And I hope this October. I'm planning to be in Tinley.
Nice.
I discovered my not discover. I make this sound like it's under the table or behind my back. My wife is going to Minnesota this summer, and I'm not going to be able to go because we've got 100 animals and then 2 needy dogs and several other animals, and we will have taken another vacation already, so I've kind of used up the animal care fund. It's more expensive to care for the animals than it is to go on vacation. Like I gotta, anyway. So I was like, "Oh, you're going to Minnesota?" I said, I was just thinking I might want to go up to Chicago in October. If you're going to go to Minnesota by yourself, maybe I'll do a solo trip. And she was like, sounds nice. I'm like, well, that's how I think it's going to work out.
Yeah, you won't regret going to October Tinley, and just make sure you get the VIP pass so you can get in early. And the Friday late afternoon, evening is just great atmosphere, right? There's just not as the amount of people in the room is really comfortable. You can get around, talk to more people, see that kind of stuff. And then same thing early Saturday morning, because once they open the doors to general public, man, it gets nuts.
Yeah. Well, if my goal right now is one of 2 things: either find somebody that I can help vend, not vend my own, just if a breeder's driving up from Florida and they need another person to drive with them, or somewhere in the Southeast and they need help, I'll do it, and I'll just come work with them, kind of thing. And I think Dale would vouch for me that I do pretty, I stay on task and I work. Like if I say I'm working, I'm there to work. So that's one option. The other, actually, if somebody had like one display space to spare, I would love to jump in and actually vend some. And then third is just fly in and go and just pay the price. Just go get a ticket and go to it. So one of those 3 things I'll work out, and I'll start making the plans anytime any opportunity presents itself. But if no opportunities present themselves, then I'll fly up and just go.
If none of those opportunities work, just reach out to Troy from Best Dressed Balls.
Yeah.
Him and Lisa will drive to Florida, pick you up, and then drive you back to Chicago.
I'll fly into Chicago. If they want, I'll help vend. I'll fly into Chicago if somebody wants help vending.
They'll drive all the way to Florida just to pick you up.
Yep.
Okay. That would definitely, or I don't really. In case anybody wonders, I never have done a pay to play spot on the show. But that one, I'd probably make an exception for that one. Like, that'd be fine. That'd be the first one. I've never been like, yeah, hey, be a sponsor, then I'll get you on the show, pay up the money. I've always kept my whatever ethical standard that is. But yeah, if he wants to do that, I'll make the exception. Like, there's a first for everything. We can do that. Yeah, Rick says I got to look for a hotel. The Tinley Hotel is sold out.
That is a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. I have I don't tell many people this from my days of traveling playing music. I've got a truck outfitted that I can as long as I can find a shower, I would prefer a hotel. I would prefer not to be the dude crawling back into his truck at night. But to be honest, when a good gig pays $250 or $300 and the nearest hotel is going to cost you $150, you go,
right.
Now this is things have to change. So yeah, Dale says he needs some tables at Tinley. Dale's got more firepower than I do, but the 2 of us together might make a good team. Anyhow, I'll be at Tinley one way or another. I'll figure it out. And I guess I need to throw out the pitch too. If anybody else is flying solo and wants to split a hotel room, I'm in for that too now. Since all the regular ones are gone. Anyway, we'll see what comes out of it all. But I will be there in October. Let's talk about these lights, man. I'm interested. I saw and I'll admit I didn't know anything about them. I saw your logo. and it says JSA Reptiles, and then it says the light guys.
Yep.
And I didn't know if you were talking about like light morphs. Like I'm like, are they really lesser? Like what's going? Like what are we doing here? I didn't know. And so I'm going to do my show prep, and you take it from there. There's the stage. Take it from there.
Yeah. So as we started getting more and more into the shows, same thing, going to Tinley, right? Because you get such a bigger grand scheme of what the overall industry is. The first years that we would go there, you'd see everybody setting up their lights that they would make like their own DIY light systems out of PVC plastic and run, cords through it and then screw in light bulbs and chaos, right? And there was just nothing good. Otherwise, you had the old desk lamps that had the crappy light bulbs and.
Really does, like, I admire the DIY. Like I have a deep like DIY, vein that runs through me. But man, looking around the showrooms and some of these smaller town shows, you're like, man, your PVC thing, it doesn't look like it doesn't represent you well. Like okay, all right. So those were all over the place, huh?
Yeah. So I don't even remember how it ended up, but basically my brother's a machinist. He's been doing it for close to 30 years, I think now. We were running around Menards one day, and I started thinking of kind of different solutions. And it just kind of popped into my head, kind of the grand scheme of the overall design of the lights, knowing that he was a machinist. So Menards has a little metal section, right, where they got stainless steel pieces, aluminum pieces, all that kind of stuff. And
oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep, and wooden dowels and just all that kind of stuff that I needed to visualize something. So I needed to be hands-on. So I think it was the store was going to close in a half hour, and I called my brother and I asked, hey, how soon can you be here? And so they were closing the store as we were standing in the aisle, kind of putting pieces together, sketching it up. And then basically, I think within a week, he had a prototype made from work. So it just basically took off from there. And then once we got into it, found out, how much machining is, and then to get them powder coated and order the wiring and the lighting, and they were crazy expensive.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right? And you can make them out of plastic, right? People are doing it now, and they just don't hold up, right? They just. So anyway, we figured out how much it was going to cost us, and we're like, well, we probably not going to be able to sell these things at the price point that they're at, so we'll just make them for ourselves. So then we were obviously doing our local shows, then kind of moved into Tinley.
How much did those first ones cost you to make, you reckon?
I'm not even sure. I guess back then, like cost wise, they were even over $100 back then each.
Yeah.
Right? Just the cost of them alone.
Yeah.
So then by the time, right, you got markup and all that stuff, trying to make a little bit of money on them, right? So then sending them out to get powder coated and spending all that time, that's where at that point, $200 came in for each set of lights.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Okay.
And just at the point where we were selling enough and able to buy enough as getting enough made, we were just starting to be able to think that we could lower the price. Then, the shortages come into play, COVID comes into play. So then, now the prices are up to $250. But yeah, we were very, very, very surprised. We, had them on our table, and I think Tom Harbin was one of the first ones that came up and asked about the lights, and just said, he goes, I got to have them. And we told him, what we needed to have for him, and he didn't even bat an eye. Like he goes, it doesn't matter when it makes your display look this good.
Yeah.
Right? The lighting's not in your eyes, it's not in your face. It doesn't
obscure the views.
Yeah, it doesn't obscure the views of you and your customer, that kind of thing. It just doesn't get in the way. They break down, they pack easy, that kind of thing. And
JD had designed them.
Yep. So as we first made like the first prototypes, then as we're traveling with Troy and JD and going down to Iowa, then JD chimed in and basically made some design suggestions that actually made it quite a bit better and easier. So then they just kind of took off from there. It was just, once a few people bought them, then it just kind of snowballed.
Yeah, we're and so now where they manufactured today? How did you go from sorting out, using I think you said your brother, but using his access to kind of the hookup to a mass production situation, or more scale? How did you scale up?
Yeah, one of Sheena's coworkers from her company actually left their company and went to basically made their own, started a machining company. So then we got with him and, kind of worked out the details. So then he took over the machining side of it. And then we just used another plating company that we used originally. And that just really helped us kind of scale it up to, basically we can order as many or as little as we need when we need them.
Oh, really? Okay. And where can are they for retail sale? Like, can people go check them out and buy them?
Oh yeah, yep. So it usually goes in kind of up and down by show season, right? So as the show season starts to fire up, then basically we get kind of inundated with emails and questions and lighting sales themselves. But then the week before, like the big Tinleys or Arlington and that kind of stuff, then people are scrambling, trying to find them, or if we have them available, and then you got to deal with shipping and that kind of stuff. But overall, it's got us connected to a lot of different people.
Yeah, gotcha. And do you have pricing on them that you want to share, or is it better just go to the website or contact you directly, or how's that work?
No, the lights are they're $250 each.
Okay.
And the one light takes care of one display. But you can, as you buy more lights, you can get splitters. So then you can run, 2 to 3 lights on one splitter. Just so it helps with plug-in options.
I see, on the wiring and the other hardware components to it.
Yep.
Got it. I regret I've seen the pictures of them and I've seen them in action, but I did not find where they were for sale. So I appreciate you sharing that. I don't know what it is, but like I say, I love picking apart, understanding businesses and the mechanisms of how people. I firmly believe everybody probably has more than one, but everybody has some sort of business superpower, business secret weapon that somebody else doesn't have, whether it's a brother that's a machinist, or whether it's, I don't know, for me, a career in food and beverage taught me how to run on extremely thin margins and make sure that I can stay in business. And that's translated really well. So I always kind of like bringing that out. What are you all's, what were your professional backgrounds before you went on full time on ball pythons?
I'm a quality engineer by day. So I have my full-time.
Oh, he broke out again. Let's see, they came back in again. Good man, Troy. The JSA. Troy says the JSA secret weapon is Sheena the unicorn. I find that usually the women in the relationship or the business are exactly that secret unicorn. Yep. Sheena, you said you were a quality engineer and then it cut off. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I work in a metal stamping company and I work in the quality department. I'm a quality engineer. So
I don't know what is meta stamping. I don't know what that is. Oh, metal stamping.
Yeah, metal stamping. We make metal components for automotive, medical, aerospace, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, machine components.
And then that's my normal job. That's my Monday through Friday.
Gotcha.
Daytime. Yeah.
There's a cultural difference, or not a cultural difference. I'm not, as even my wife being from Minnesota, I'm not that familiar with Minnesota, and I'm always surprised when I hear how much manufacturing goes on in Minnesota. We have some family ties to the Marvin family of windows and doors, and obviously they're a big Minnesota company. And then you're talking about machine presses and machine components, and that. What was your background, Joe?
I did basically carpenter, did construction for I think from sophomore in high school, kind of summers building houses, log cabins, that kind of thing. And then, so we both grew up in Hurley, Wisconsin, border upper Michigan.
Okay.
And then moved to Minnesota, down into Minneapolis to do, went into a tech school, and then got into like more of the commercial construction side of it here. Steel stud and drywall. Worked with a couple of really big outfits for 22 years.
Yeah.
Basically just worked my way up, became a foreman, running decent sized jobs.
That's how you get that sexy facility then, huh?
Yeah, it definitely helped. We did a good amount of the work ourselves.
Yeah. What we'll come back to that facility in just a minute. Talk about the seasonal business and how. So in Florida, like honestly, if somebody can receive the animal, I can ship nearly year round with no trouble on my part.
Yep.
As long as somebody else can receive it. So if it's shipping to South Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, within reason, I can ship anytime. That's a different story in Minnesota. How does that affect your business? How much do you focus on, whether it be payment plans or calendar shipping dates, that kind of thing? Talk us through what you have to take into account with that.
Yeah, so basically you get into the, coming into winter time, right? So then our temperatures get too cold. So then usually the payment plans start to fire off a little bit more. And that's fine. It's perfectly fine with us because obviously we can't ship, right? So it's at least keeps the money coming in, keeps the sales. Yeah. So
the cash flow is nice. I mean, even on my small scale, I like the money up front, but there's kind of benefits to payment plans where like, oh yeah, here's a little, here's, it keeps going.
Yeah. It just seems like all the technology, right? With just the heating and then the cryo packs and that kind of stuff with shipping. So depending on the time of the year, if you can get them to a hub, I think we're getting better with shipping and more confident with how to make sure it gets there, and trusting our instincts. So then now we're shipping, a little bit more than we used to as we learn, how to pack them better, use all the different hot packs, heat packs. Yeah, the heat packs. So really, like this past year, there wasn't that big of a window where we really couldn't ship, right? Obviously, you can't put insurance on them and that kind of stuff, but
we didn't ship a whole lot in November, December, and January. But if we do watch days, if we can get a couple of good days in a row, we'll go ahead and try to get them out. As long as our biggest issue is when we're on the borderline here, other places are getting too warm. So we're just barely coming into where we can actually ship because it's getting warm enough, and other places are getting too hot. So now we're teetering on that. Now what do? We need heat packs. They don't need heat packs, and that's where the juggling really comes in.
Yeah. What hub does most of yours go through Indy, or do you find most of yours go through Memphis?
Most of them go between Indy and now Fort Worth.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't know that I've ever had a package go through Fort Worth.
A lot of our anything going west now, and even some of our Chicago stuff. If we ship something to Chicago, a lot of times it will go to Fort Worth first, which doesn't make sense to me, but it must just be how they break up and kind of even out Indy, because I think Indy is probably the biggest hub.
Yeah, my Georgia shipments will go to Memphis and then back to Georgia, and I'm 30 miles from the Georgia border. A few of them they'll put on, if they could drive it overnight, they'll do it. But if they have to put it on a plane, it's going to Memphis and then coming out of there. And yeah, I was doing an interview. I talked to Garrick was kind enough to come on the show. And there's times where, like on his Instagram, I see him just saying, well, I guess shipping's done for, a while. But it sounds like you all are a little bit more comfortable than just shutting down totally. You'll find your pockets and your windows and when to go.
Yeah, when we can. And it doesn't, there's some years, right, that we don't even get the option.
Yeah.
But we understand, and it's one of those that on both sides, right? Some of the customers are perfectly fine as long as it takes, right? Just to make sure we sit on the animal till it's safe, and that's fine, right? We just continue to feed it until it's comfortable to get out.
Yep. Yeah, I don't.
Really appreciate people that are willing to go to hubs. That they just not having to put them on trucks afterwards. It's huge.
Yeah, that's a challenging conversation that I run up against a lot. Where, like I think Joe, you said you try and make your best decisions that you can. There's a few times where there was a shipment to Boston. I don't know, sometime in the past year, where I was like, this just doesn't make sense to do. Like, I don't even know the legality of it, but I don't feel comfortable selling to you. Like, either you wait the 5 or 6 days until that warm spell comes, or you go to the hub and get it. But I'm not putting it on a truck. And they finally were like, all right, I'll wait. And I mean, it literally was 4 days, I think. They're like, I'll wait 4 days then. I'm like, come on, was it that hard? Like, you're not breeding. You don't, and even if you were, 4 days wouldn't make a difference if you were breeding. Like, you're going to have the pet for your whole life. Like, just, yeah. Anyhow, I know that people are excited and that they want to get their animal and they're happy. So I never want to kind of douse that flame, but it can be challenging. Speaking of challenging, what's the reptile law politics scene like there? Obviously, everybody knows that Florida man apparently works for FWC, so everybody knows what's going on down here. What do you guys see up there? Any issues? Anything? Is it wide open? Any challenges you think you face or up on the horizon?
Well, I think it varies more from city to city. Ordinances I think are more of an issue than the actual state of Minnesota.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the state of Minnesota pretty much governs their native species. They protect. They're far more protective of the native species. So, ball pythons, and I think they're maybe more on the venomous side. But for those of us here in Minnesota breeding ball pythons, they're not worried about them becoming invasive. It's not going to be a problem. They focus on protecting the native species far more than they worry about some ball python breeders. So.
Right.
It's more your local, some cities you can only have animals that are so big. You can have 6 foot up to 10 feet, and everyone is different, and that's the issue here.
Wow. I hadn't heard of that. I'm not familiar with ordinance by ordinance. I'm particularly interested in Minnesota because the next move we make, my wife gets to make the call on. I've not drug her around. That sounds awful. She has kindly followed me around chasing career, and we've had a wonderful life up to this point, and I want that to continue. But she is, this is our third move on account of my profession and her coming along, and obviously she has plenty of say in the matter. It's been good for us, but I've said. Next one's on you if we make another move, and so if we don't stay in Florida, I suspect Minnesota is where we would end up. Are there ordinances that you know of specifically against ball pythons, or are there animals that are 6, 10, bigger feet?
Bigger animals, venomous, that kind of stuff. And like I said, anything that is native to Minnesota, frogs, salamanders, that kind of stuff is also protected.
Right. Do you see anybody have it? I couldn't believe it. I was talking to Reggie, Reggie's Urban Jungle, and I believe he's in Michigan, and he was like, yeah, my buddy's got a bunch of alligators, so I gave him my alligator. I'm like, what, you're in Michigan? Do you have alligator people? People up there with alligators in Minnesota?
Not too many anymore, but unfortunately it seems at least once a summer there's an alligator somewhere in a lake that somebody has. Somebody will be out fishing, somebody will be out walking the bank, and swear to God that they just saw an alligator, and everybody says they're lying, and then next thing it pops up on the news, right? So but people that have them, right, they raise them and get 4 or 5 feet long, and then they don't want it anymore, and then they throw it in the lake.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm laughing not because of it's not a serious matter. I don't think I've told this story on the show before. I worked at a summer camp in Maine, so I grew up in Maine. My mother's family's from Maine. And in college, I went back to a summer camp, and I was a fishing instructor on a lake in Maine, and it's a rural lake, and it actually reminds me of kind of the rural lakes in Minnesota. And I'm out with the kids, the 7-year-olds, the youngest little kids, 6 and 7-year-olds, out on a pontoon boat fishing. I was the fishing instructor. And if you can imagine, 12 kids with their Zebco 202s flinging around hooks and worms, it's pretty hectic on this boat. And one of the kids says, oh, look, there's Bob Miner with his lion. And I was like, all right, the 6-year-old is out of his head, and I'm focusing on earthworms and hooks. And the other kids are like, oh, look, there's a lion. And I'm like, and I look around, and there's a Maine dude with his massive beard, overalls, in the lake with a lion on a chain, wrestling this lion in the water, playing like it's his, dog. And I promptly turned the boat around and had one of those, like, look, sir, there's a lion in your lake, and we need to talk about this because I'm out there with kids. The guy had a big cat rescue farm right next to us. And what was really funny is 8 or 10 years later, so like 2010, 2012, Animal Planet had a show with the guy, Bob Miner's something farm or big cats or some nonsense. And he turned out to be a little bit crazy, not quite as crazy as the big cat world would become in the pandemic, but he had his moments. But yeah, when you're out in the lake and you see something that just doesn't go there, you're like, is that an alligator? I don't know. Maybe maybe it's a lion. Where can people find you? I know you're on Instagram. Where else? Anywhere else that people can find you?
Instagram and Facebook are pretty much the main easiest options.
Well, I got a hold of you on Instagram. I was gonna say pretty easy to get a hold of on Instagram. And obviously you're on Morph Market as well. All your animals are there.
Yep.
Cool. And when's the next show that you'll be vending? Where can people find you at?
We'll be at the Cold Blooded show, June 4th. Yeah, so that's the local show here. It'll be in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's not June 4th?
Yep.
All right, my calendar's over here. I won't. No. Well, I'm not going to Minnesota this summer, but I'm going to Tinley. But one of these days I'll get up there. Well, hey, I want to tell you all thank you so much for being on. Your animals are incredible. I don't even know if we touched enough on that, but people need to go check out your animals. Congratulations on the longevity, the success. It's really impressive what you've done, and you give me a lot of inspiration and something to chase after. And I hope I'm always grateful, but certainly to you all, I'm always grateful for your time. I know you have a lot going on, and it's not lost on me that you made time for me this evening. So I want to say thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it too. But it comes down to it was the same thing for us, right? Like Troy's in the chat, joking around and whatever. Troy, JD, we just got great friends that basically become family.
Yeah, I'm remiss. So I had this page of like topics to go through, and one of them was relationships. And I wrote Dave, Justin, Cusco, and then I wrote in quotation marks a whole lot of little people. Every person I've ever talked to that knows you has said wonderful things about you. Whether it's Taylor, whether it's Chris at Epic Style, as soon as and a lot of people just in the chat comment today when I posted on Instagram that you'd be on was, hey, I can't wait to hang out with them. They're such great people. So thanks for what you're doing for our industry and growing it and keeping it healthy, because there's a lot of people that aren't, and we know that too. So.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah. It's squeaky, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So there's so many great people out there, but we just keep to ourselves, keep quiet, just keep pushing along, and we go to the shows and have a great time. But then you get on social media or you see the negative stuff, right? And then that kind of just consumes social media and the topics of conversation, right? But there's just so many other things that we can focus on.
I agree with you completely, and I'll bring this show full circle. I think now more than ever we should be aware of what you're talking about. We have the national attention right now. How we present ourselves is important. Right. Give to USARK. Give to USARK Florida. Go to USARK Florida's Instagram page. If you can't give, that's okay. you can be active with who you can email, whether it be the governor of Florida, whether it be your local representatives in Florida, whether you vote for the guy or not. Tell them, hey, if that's how you're going to run Florida, I don't want those laws looking at me in the future if you think you can have my vote. We can do these things. None of those things cost any money, and you can still help, and we can present each other in a great, great positive light. And I think that's important. And I'm not just talking, you know,
We lost him now.
yeah, hippie rainbows and butterfly stuff. I'm talking active movement. We need to be careful how we present ourselves. And I think now's the time on that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for the hearing me out. Are you there? Yeah, Joe and Sheena. Okay, good. You're there. Thank you one more time so much for being here. I don't know if the music will hit or not. I tried it on the intro. It didn't the first time. We'll see how it is. Stick around for just a second. Don't run away, Joe and Sheena. I'll say goodnight to you off air in just a second. Everybody else.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next week, we got Balls and Strikes. Same time, same place. Thank you, audience. All my appreciation. See y'all next time.
Thank you.